Wanna hear a fun fact of the day? Did you know there are more icebergs on YouTube than in real life? It's quite wild, I know, my dear viewer. Because you already clicked on this iceberg, why not to stay for a bit and see what I have to offer? Well, first of all, I like to dive and cover my charts as deeply as I possibly can, and I'm trying to do my research to the best of my abilities. So no quick summaries or even skipping entries. Today, as promised, a somewhat darker video to set you in the mood for Halloween. This chart focuses on family-friendly games, but with a little twist. You probably remember while playing games as a kid that some things you saw in games felt creepy or out of place. Well, this chart is just about that. The scary things that slipped through the fingers of the ASRB rating system and landed in family-friendly games. This chart will be quite interesting because we are going to touch on many different stuff from creepy characters, location, music, Easter eggs, events and unused content. I wanted to skip the first layer because I already talked about some of these entries, but I won't be like other creators and I will do a proper explanation even if I covered a few entries on this list. So I am so sorry for this long intro and we can now dive in. But there is still a small thing I want to say before we start, and that's thank you for tuning in and I hope you will enjoy this video. Gigas. The layer 1 or the sky starts with Gigas, which is a very popular abominable show. Wait, what? I meant boss. He's a very disturbing boss. Yeah, I didn't make this up because there is a whole conspiracy about his presence and things around him, which suggests that he's a abominable. A great way to start a video. But this video is not about theories. Let's now focus only on Gigas as a boss and enemy. Earthbound is a very light and calm game with a cheerful graphic, and it's easy to see why Gigas is a bit out of place. Who is Gigas and what are his motives? Gigas is an evil alien whose mission is to reclaim the knowledge of the psychokinesis power of humans. Gigas wants to sentence all reality to horror and infinite darkness. If this wasn't scary already, his influence also caused animals and people to become violent and distressed. Well, it's obvious why he's on the list. He also attacks at random and his speech is erratic and mindless. Overall, Gigas is a memorable and iconic villain in the video game medium, with a distinct and unsettling visual design and a sense of cosmic horror that sets him apart from more traditional video game villains in child-friendly games. Somewhat of a fun fact is that Gigas' appearance in Earthbound was inspired by young Itoei stumbling in the wrong movie at a theater and seeing what he thought was a rape scene. That frightening moment was the loss of innocence for the young Itoei, which was the creator behind Gigas. Mad Piano. I will go mad if I cover another chart with the Mad Piano in it. I swear it. Prepare yourself for a few Mario entries because we can't skip them. But I will keep them as short as possible as they are quite well known and there is no point beating a dead horse. I hope you understand what I mean. The Mad Piano is an enemy in Super Mario 64 but also in the remake for the DS. The piano only appears in one room and that is in the Big Boo's Hounds. At first it looks like a normal piano, but at a better look you will see that the piano has sharp teeth and a mouth like a red interior. I am the first one who doesn't want to stick my fingers into that piano. The enemy will chase you around if you come close. It is frequently said by players of Super Mario 64 that the Mad Piano is one of the scariest enemies they know in this game, but I let you to judge this. But why is he so scary? One thing is maybe the reason that he would relentlessly chase you when he saw you, while clapping its jaw up and down while pursuing you. Another reason can be that you cannot destroy the piano by any means in the base game. Unagi. Do you really thought Unagi wasn't on the list? Unagi the eel is a large and unique creature that appears in Jolly Roger Bay. The eel has a head with a turquoise eyes and a large mouth with several teeth. Its body has also several white tiny dots and yellow fins on its backside. He hides in a large shipwreck. The eel would swim away and avoid the player until the star at his tail end is collected, but if you collide with the eel, it would hurt you. Its somewhat disturbing appearance landed him on this list because it's a quite terrifying underwater creature. I mean, huge underwater creatures are quite unsettling, and seeing him as a kid would definitely scare me.
Endless staircase.
The endless staircase is an obstacle within the Mushroom Castle in Super Mario 64. They are behind the final big star which leads to Bowser in the sky, the final level of the game. If the player has fewer than 70 power stars in Super Mario 64, they can still enter the big star door, but they will endlessly climb the stairs, seemingly gaining no ground, even though they could easily exit through the entrance. For a kid, this could lead to a very unpleasant experience as walking forward in a never-ending loop. Also on the left and right are pictures that can represent light and dark, good and evil. And even so speculate that Mario running on the staircase may represent life which is going on no matter which side you choose. Or maybe I'm just talking nonsense. Hey, I love wild theories. By the way, if you're bored, there is also a 10-hour loop on YouTube while Mario is running the stairs, just in case you didn't know.
Hell Valley Sky Trees.
This is a very popular Easter egg, beaten to death upon this point even on my channel. In Super Mario Galaxy, player can discover mysterious figures in the Shiverbird Galaxy and later in the Grandmaster Galaxy of World S. These figures resemble tall shadowy beings with hole-like eyes standing motionless atop of a mountain. They never interact with the player. Some speculate they could be Kodama, tree spirits from Japanese folklore. Others suggest they may be skinwalkers or shadow people from hell, which is definitely much more unsettling. And I mean, skinwalkers even scare adults. And I also discovered in the last video where I covered them that they are like 100 times bigger than Super Mario for whatever reason.
Cave sounds and disc Elf and 13.
For the sake of the video, I will combine both Minecraft entries into one. So Minecraft is Minecraft and doesn't need any introduction. If you have ever found yourself mining for an extended period of time, there is a good chance that you jumped out of your chair due to the music that is playing. Sometimes the music can be unsettling and disturbing, and there is a theory I would like to explain to you, and that's the cave sound crash theory. I know I skipped the Gigas theory, but only because I already covered it. Now to the theory. The main element of Minecraft is in the name, I mean mining. And people believe that the cave sounds 1 through 19 as well discs Elf and 13 involve the crash and death of a group of miners, which is definitely a bit morbid for Minecraft. And of course there are people who think that the music is somehow connected to the mysterious Herobrine. Well, is Herobrine just a myth or not is a debate for another time.
The Neutral Road Final Boss.
Oh god, you know who this is? Well, none other than the Photoshop Flowey, also known by fans as Omega Flowey. Why is he creepy? I mean, he does absorb the human souls, and also Flowey will transform into a grotesque flower-shaped hybrid of plant tissues, human organs and machinery, consisting entirely of rendered images. Photoshop Flowey is stylistically different from anything you will see in the game. And if Undertale is a kid's game, it's like, ah. Also, in the middle is a monitor that either displays a laughing pixelated face or a black and white image of a yelling human face. Also, one more unsettling thing is that the game breaks the fourth wall. It would play glitched noises until the player presses Z, and it will corrupt the display image. And every game boss that breaks the fourth wall is kind of creepy because it gives you that extra dose of realism, which is definitely weird. One more fun thing I wanna add, that the Photoshop Flowey concept art shows a great resemblance to the description of Angel Azrael. He has 4 faces and 4,000 wings, and his whole body consists of eyes and tongues. In Judaism and Islam, Azrael is the angel of death, and he watches over the dying, separates the soul from the body and receives the spirits of the dead, which matches his description and grants him a place on this list.
Shadow Temple.
Yes, we all know that the early 3D Legend of Zelda games had some quite unsettling things in them. The Shadow Temple is quite an infamous place in Ocarina of Time. The Shadow Temple emphasizes themes such as death and fear, and arguably features the most terrifying enemies of the game, and that's why it's perfect for this list. Besides its dungeon-like design and the enemies you will encounter, you will also hear something quite interesting. But first I need to mention that the newer versions of the game were altered, from ground textures to walls to even less blood textures. And also the mini-boss Dead Hand was altered. But let's shift the focus for a bit on the music. It features a song that combines bongos with dual chants with low and high voices, giving it a high contrast. Which really sets a creepy mood. I think this gives you a good explanation on why this level is on the list. Of course, there is much to talk about here, but let's do that on another occasion.
Game over.
I will address this game over screen with the entry 13, which is also Donkey Kong Country end screen. Well, Donkey Kong, even though it is a mostly cheerful and kid-friendly game, it has some levels and boss which are a bit scary. But one thing that many people agree, how the game over screens in Donkey Kong were kind of depressing, seeing Donkey and Diddy Kong beaten up with that eerie music in the background really points the finger to you, and it's like, this is only your fault, look what you did.
River Twigs Bed.
I mean, just why? Have you heard this song? This is just some pure cold stuff. Please check this out. At which point the developers think, yes, this is just a good music to put in a Mario game. Just imagine the producer sitting in the studio making the music and says, we need to spice things up here. By the way, sorry for not mentioning this, it's obviously that the music is from Super Paper Mario.
Bad ending.
You met with a terrible fate, haven't you? To the ones who are not familiar with this game, because I'm in the same basket and there is no shame. And I promised to myself I will beat this game eventually. Now, at the very end of the game, if Link fails to free all the giants and place the O to order, the giants attempt to stop the moon, but they will ultimately fail. Link then has only 1 minute to play Song of Time and go back to the first day. If he fails to do so, the giants collapse and Termia faces destruction. First of all, seeing the moon with that creepy face just heading straight to the earth is already unsettling, but imagine being a kid with that extra layer of urgency and consequences put on your shoulders. It would definitely lead to great discomfort.
Totaka's song.
Do you recognize this song maybe? Do you have the feeling you maybe heard this song before? Well, if you didn't know, that's the Totaka song. Kazumi Totaka is a melody song designer who made a 19-note and a 8-bar melody, inserting it in the most of the titles that he worked on. To name a few of them, Animal Crossing, Luigi's Mansion, Super Smash Bros. And Mario Kart 8. Also, this started in the early 1990s. Even if this is quite an interesting Easter egg, I would not consider this somewhat creepy or dark. So let's jump to the next entry.
0.
Kirby is definitely my spirit animal, or my spirit game character, because he's a little chubby guy. But even if Kirby is a child-friendly game, there is something a bit off. And if you play the Kirby franchise, you know about the final boss Zero. Zero is portrayed as a giant white spear with a single red eyeball in the center, and it serves as the leader of dark matter. The fact that it sprouts blood during some attacks is somewhat unusual feature for Nintendo games, and is also the reason why he stands out, adding a dark tone to the game because of that, besides being a huge eye that is attacking you. I mean, come on.
SAX.
First of all, I will pronounce it as sex, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, so don't hang me because of this one. So, are there any Metroid fans here who were in the same situation like I am, because the first encounter with Gas was definitely creepy? This is, if you didn't know, a character from the video game Metroid Fusion. She's a hostile clone of the game protagonist Samus Aran, created by the X-Parasite. Samus' first encounter with the X on SR-388 was when her power suit was infected by the parasite released from an infected enemy she killed. She is essentially a dark, malevolent version of Samus, with a black and purple color scheme that contrasts with Samus' traditional orange and yellow armor. Zax wears a sleek and form-fitting version of Samus' iconic power suit, with a more angular and aggressive design. The character's appearance is intended to be intimidating, with glowing red eyes and a perpetually menacing demeanor. She is a formidable opponent, possessing all of Samus' abilities and weapons, as well as some additional abilities that Samus does not have. The character is nearly invisible, with only a few vulnerabilities that player can exploit in order to defeat him.
Vanessa's Manor.
A Hat in Time is a cute game that we mentioned on the previous Iceberg chart, where we covered creepy Easter eggs in video games in a more general sense. And now we are going to address the level Vanessa's Manor. Well, if I could quickly explain to you how the level is looking, I would say it's looking like Luigi's Mansion but on steroids. Queen's Vanessa Manor in the game's third chapter, Subcon Forest, is particularly scary due to its horror theme design. The level includes an outside section leading to the manor and with several floors within it, such as the basement, first floor, second and the attic. The most scary part is, I would say, is the first floor, where Queen Vanessa patrols. If caught, she turns Headkit into ice, resulting in death. I mean, just imagine being frozen to death. The horror theme just infests the whole manor, marked by loud, eerie noises and music changes. But also, Vanessa's pursuit creates tension and fear, which is also enhanced by freezing the Headkit upon capturing.
A Little Lava Land painting.
Like I said, there are a few Mario 64 entries we need to get out the way to get to the good stuff. And come on, we need to mention the Little Lava Land. This level is known for its infamous painting, which is a large, scary looking fireball, despite how relatively simple the level is. It's definitely quite a scary smiley looking fireface, but what's more interesting is that there is a blue lava created by apparently the personalization AI used by Nintendo back in the day, and there is a whole conspiracy about it, how every Mario 64 copy is personalized, but I covered that already on my other Iceberg chart.
Fearful Harmony.
This was quite a surprise for me, I totally forgot about this. So when I got my first PlayStation 1, it was chipped, and yes, the console was chipped by the store directly and sold this way. And I remember that sometimes the game would have a very weird boot up logo. And this entry is about the Fearful Harmony, which is a startup error on certain PlayStation 1 models triggered by inserting a damaged or non-PlayStation 1 game disc. It occurs when copy protection is bypassed through modding, chipping or disc swapping. The error leads to a prolonged Sony logos with visual glitches and distorted startup music. Technically, it results from misinterpreting disk data as machine instructions, overwriting part of the BIOS. The distinctive music comes from the live MIDI playback. Video glitches stem from memory issues and corrupted display instructions. The absence of the PlayStation 1 logo is because it's intended to be read from the game disc. This error provides insight into the PlayStation 1 startup sequence, copy protection and music production. Crazy, am I right? How many of you with modded PlayStation 1 knew about this back in the day? Well, I love to dive in such topics and finding out things like this.
Red screen of death.
I mean, this was scary as hell back in the day, putting your favorite PlayStation 2 game in the console and seeing the red screen. It first creates tension and then at the end it is just sad. The red screen of death would usually appear when you insert an unknown or incompatible disc format. The most remembered thing was the background music, which becomes lower pitched and more, which can cause some unease. Definitely a nightmare for every PlayStation 2 gamer. My PlayStation 2 was also modded and it has a skull shown every time I boot up my PlayStation 2, and under the skull it stays toxic, and my friends once told me it's because my PlayStation 2 has a virus. And I got curious after writing this entry and I realized that the toxic skull was a version of a chip and it was region lock, and I could even play games from a hard disk or USB back in the day. Yep, I love to dive into icebergs and discover new stuff.
Yammer.
Yum, known by fans as Yammer, is an urban legend revolving around a SpongeBob saves the day. Or we could say it's an unused asset. While digging through the game files, dedicated fans noticed that they were able to find the sprite sheets of a frame for each of the game's zones appearing when triggered. When they got to the Krusty Krab's sheet, this character appeared. The sprite was called Yammer, a bizarre looking bald guy looking back at you. The fans started to wonder what he represents and started to email the team behind the game, where they eventually said it was a test model they built and somehow it became a meme in the office. But they forgot to remove it in the final game.
I love you.
So Roblox. Well, I'm completely unfamiliar with Roblox, so this is why this Easter egg is completely new for me. But let me explain you what I found. Roblox allows for a significant creative freedom due to the absence of corporate oversight, which led to developers embedding eerie content in the game, such as a hidden video featuring a creepy clown. This Easter egg video can be accessed through the specific command seen on the screen. In servers that support this Easter egg, the video showcasing someone in a clown mask styling their hair in a dark grainy setting has become sort of a legend among the players. Its elusive nature requiring specific settings to view has contributed to its status as an urban legend. The unsettling clown video contrasts with Roblox's child-friendly image, and that's the reason why it's on this list. And clowns can be scary. How many of you remember the clowns sightseeing in America, where random clowns would just appear and stalk people? Yikes.
Who are you running from?
I have a very good explanation about this entry in the previous chart, where we talk about creepy Easter eggs. It's about, let's call it a game, which was included with the Game Boy camera attachment. There was a menu with options including shoot, view and play. Selecting shoot led you to a eerie JRPG-like screen with more choices like item, magic and run. Choosing run would reveal a distorted face. They're pretty weird looking to be bundled in a toy/game for kids. Now get this, I also found a creepypasta about it, and I just love how insane the story is. The unsettling photos are believed to depict the work of a sinister cult involved into kidnapping. How this picture made their way into the game remains a mystery, and the cult motives and the victim's fate are unclear, and no corresponding body has ever been found. I know this isn't about creepypastas, but I just could not resist not to include it.
US Game Over, US Boss Team.
Again, I will combine the next two entries together for the sake of the video. They are about the boss theme and game over music found in Sonic CD. The sounds are very daunting and unsettling, and the evil laughter is especially out of place, because we are still talking about a kid-friendly game, and the game over music sounds like the game wants to traumatize the player for dying. Here are two samples just to give you an idea, and let me know if this is appropriate for a kid's game.
Version 1 Fire Temple Music.
Congrats, you dip your feet into the water. Layer 3 starts with a quite fun entry about Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. There is a level called the Fire Temple, where they used chanting that resembled Islamic prayers. Because the songs were set in a fire temple with painted dragons, this led to some outrage. To top it all off, Nintendo on the other hand had used the sounds from a third party and the songs weren't composed in-house by Nintendo. And because of that, Nintendo had some legal issues. But after my research, there wasn't any public outcry about this, as far as my research goes. After the game got patched due to Nintendo policy about no real-life religious reference policy, the song was altered on the GameCube, 3DS and so on, among many other stuff. Taiko no Tatsujin, or Master of the Drums, is a series of games created by Namco. It's a rhythm game where you simulate playing a taiko drum in time with music. Now let's talk about the very cryptic and weird sound featured in the game. There is, deep within Taiko no Tatsujin, there is a hidden song called the name you see on the screen that could not be accessed in the game, because you need to rip off everything from the CD to find it. It's a disturbing mix of footsteps, screams, and remix of Wrath of Requiem and eerie laughter, following by song rewinding. A voice repeats Yo Kai, hitting at a teaser for Taiko Deias 3 for those who delve into the game's code. And from what I have read, it is also a very chaotic song to play, but it's definitely a weird Easter egg which isn't so easy to find, at least for a kid.
The Sewer.
Stray was a game that caught many people off guard when it was announced. It looks so fun and calm. It's a game definitely worth trying out. So why is it on the list? Well, for that we need to take a look at a level called the Sewer. In that you can encounter enemies called Zurks that must be avoided during the mission. These creatures inhabit the slums, covered in fleshy material, creating a creepy atmosphere. In the sewers, the cat gains a weapon to fend off the Zurks, but the real horror comes from the fleshy pots that explode when approached. Additionally, giant red eyes in the sewers summon Zurks to attack the player, hitting at a hive mind concept. Also, apparently to some, the game raises unsettling questions, suggesting that the player might be inside a giant organism, adding to the overall eerie and mysterious ambience of the level.
World 44 Ghost.
One more Easter egg we addressed at least 2 times I think, and I hope this is the last time. If you still don't know about this Easter egg, let me explain it to you. Obviously we are talking about the stage 4-4, and if the player stands on the short wall behind the goal pole facing the fences and waits for several seconds, a ghostly figure will appear slowly out of the background, which is very different from every ghost you see in the game. Once enough time passes, it will unexpectedly open its mouth wide and flash while fading out at the same time. The spirit closely resembles the 3 figures in Shiverburn Galaxy, but I didn't find any connection between them.
Don't be afraid of the dark.
We are now in the murky waters and starting to dive into the depths, and we are starting this layer with Yoshi's Crafted World, and this game is just adorable. There is no other way to describe it, but yet it's on the list. The game does have a location which is quite unsettling. The level Be Afraid of the Dark has raised questions about its approval due to its theme involving crazy ex-murderers hunting down Yoshis, uncovering hidden clouds for coins, dealing with ex-murderers to find red coins, and rescuing Poachy Pops from dangerous situations. This level includes various hazards, and the level introduces you to various hazards. And if the game has a clown chasing you with a goddamn axe, there is no way it's kid friendly in my book. But hey, that's my opinion.
Blackout.
Who doesn't love Blackout? Electricity, no lights, alone in the house, just perfect. But our Ghostbuster Luigi didn't like that one bit. In Luigi's Mansion and its Nintendo 3DS remake, a significant event called the Blackout occurs after Luigi defeats Bolossus and enters Area 4. A lightning strikes the mansion, causing a complete power outrage, resulting every room being covered in darkness and allowing ghosts to roam freely. The ghosts will appear in groups, even replacing those Luigi had previously captured. The blackout will end when Luigi captures Uncle Grimly in the wardrobe room, leading to the restoration of power. The blackout situation prevents Luigi from saving. It's obvious that a setting like a huge mansion at night with no electricity would be a scary level to be in.
Thought murder scene.
Have you ever played CIA Paper Mario? No? Well, didn't you know there is a murder case in Paper Mario? This murder case can be only seen in the Japanese version of Paper Mario The Thousand-Year Door. There is a house in the back alley of Rogue Sport Main Square, which originally had a toad-shaped chalk outline and dry blood on the floor. These signs of violence were removed from the US version. And I mean, having something like this in a game which indicates murder is quite dark for a kid's game. Again, Paper Mario isn't a game based for adults.
Giratina jump scare.
This Iceberg didn't touch upon the many creepy things Pokemon games have hidden behind its kid-friendly curtain. But we got at least one entry so far, and that's good for me. When you first see Giratina, you will feel uncomfortable with how he raises from the dark hole of the ground, which is like an endless void, something you don't want to see in your everyday Pokemon games. Giratina is probably the scariest Pokemon out there. It's literally a ghost dragon type. This legendary is also massive, which only leads to its scary nature. It is said to haunt ancient cemeteries and it's very protective of its home. From Giratina, we can go now to the layer 5, the deep end.
Clock Tower.
Oh well, layer 5 starts with a Mickey Mouse game, Epic Mickey to be precise, which is indeed a great game from what I have heard of. But we need to take a look at particular boss you can find in game called Clock Tower. The Clock Tower boss battle in Epic Mickey is considered very scary for kids due to its dark and eerie atmosphere. It is visually intense and has an intimidating design. Personally, the weirdest thing about him is his beard. That creeps me out a bit. And again, it's a boss fight, which can be anxiety-inducing for younger players. Like always, you can comment down below if it was really a good choice to be in a kid's game.
Lights off.
Does anyone remember the Nintendo Lab Kit? You know, that game where you can fiddle around with all sorts of things to interact with the game? But I can guess that this game is quite forgotten, even if it was released a few years ago, basically. In the game of Nintendo Lab Kit, there is something quite sinister going on. A few different events can be triggered upon going to sleep, and one of them is a bit creepy. And perhaps some kids will find this unsettling. I mean, after you decide to go to sleep, there is a dark snake starting to appear, then a spider starts to crawl around and a car king suddenly pops up behind you. I think this would be a perfect nightmare fuel for me as a kid. And can you just imagine waking up seeing a spider, a snake and a car king right by your side at night? Definitely not creepy at all.
No such scene.
So I never heard about this game. Antidote 2 is a 2D/3D action-adventure game where you adventure through vast, dreamy 3D landscapes, shrink into surreal 2D dungeons inside of a character's body. But you will also travel the world to meet strange people and save the world from dangerous nano dust. Hey, that's the quick Steam description. Sorry for not knowing about every game under the sun. Now, let's take a look at No Such Scene. From what I can tell, the game creates a sense of unease through its visual and auditory design. Plus, coupled with eerie visuals and potential disorienting elements, contributes to a feeling of discomfort and uncertainty. The game may employ psychological horror techniques such as a surreal landscape and unexpected shifts in tone to awake a sense of fear and unease in players. Again, I'm not so familiar with the game, but probably some of you are, and if you can fill some blanks for me, I would really appreciate it, and I hope you will not be angry if I jump to the next entry.
Jersey Devil.
Again, like the last entry, I'm ashamed to say, but I don't know about the game Pop Tropica. And from what I have seen on its wiki page, it is an online role-playing game developed in 2007 by Pearson Education's Family Education Network. And it's targeted towards children between 6 and 15, which may explain why I don't know anything about this game. But I know about the Jersey Devil because we cover it on my 6-hour-long Iceberg chart about cryptids and mythological beings. So, what is the Jersey Devil? The Jersey Devil appears as a bipedal creature with a zombie-like horse head and a hooked tail with a ball on it. Despite its gruesome appearance, it does not harm your Pop Tropican. And what I found really cool about this, when you try to search for him in the game, at some point your character thinks he is just a giant raccoon. Yes, because raccoons are cool. So there you have it. If you want to make a perfect game for kids, you choose a bloodthirsty cryptid that eats children and turn him into a zombie and put him in your game. It is really that simple.
Loot images.
This entry is about some unused content from SpongeBob for the PlayStation 1, and you know how much I love PlayStation 1 games. When Climax Group shut down one of its offices, all of the assets were sold off to eBay, including Super Sponge. Upon examining the archive, people found some cut content that can be found on development discs that aren't in the final game, but neither in the prototypes, along with many other weird stuff. Some of them were standard stuff you would see, but there are 3 pieces of unused content that are quite out of place. 2 were even too spicy to show it without blurring the image. Oh Patrick, what are you doing with Sandy? And I think this picture really shows how Patrick and SpongeBob are very good friends. But I probably think this was just some inside joke, I hope. And I really hope this wasn't at any time planned to be in the game. I mean, it would be ridiculous. But this wasn't the first time we talk about unsettling things we found in a SpongeBob game.
CD player error.
This is about the Sega CD player error, which is somewhat self-explanatory. Some find this creepy or even thinking there is a hidden message behind it, and to be honest, I just love how the girl is telling you to put out the CD out of the Sega. It's like you having a bomb inside your Sega and not a CD. I don't know, I found it hilarious actually.
Warning. Please stop playing this disc immediately.
Stitched face textures.
So let's end the layer 5 with stitch face textures, which can be found in the Race with Ryan. I mean, that already sounds quite disturbing. Race with Ryan is a 2019 racing video game based on a YouTube channel, Ryan's World. I mean, the channel has over 35 million views, but because the target audience was under 10 years, I have never heard of this channel. From the footage playing, you can also see what type of a game this is. I would consider it as a kid-friendly version of Mario Kart. Now the question is, why they included stitched face textures? Because I didn't find anything about this, I will take a random guess and probably think this is about if at some point you get hit by something, the character would be harmed or damaged, and that would result that the stitch face textures would appear. But in the last minute they decided this was a bit too much, and they later just forgot about this file and it's landed in the final game. But let's now go to the layer 6 where things get a bit interesting.
Uncut bad ending.
The times of FMVs. There was a pretty high chance to be scared by every FMV video you would see on your PlayStation 1, including kid-friendly games. But Lego Island from 1997 had also a quite traumatizing FMV, which didn't land in the final game. Despite playing some Lego games as a kid, this one slipped through my fingers. In the game, should you fail to catch Brickster, you'll see what happens to the Lego island under his rule. The results are not pleasant in the slightest. You will see destroyed buildings, people crying and wailing in the streets. It's definitely nightmare fuel, because seeing this as a kid, you would definitely feel some blame for the disaster you caused. This definitely would be too much for me, seeing the once happy island turned in a total disaster by Brickster. But again, thanks to God, the developers changed their mind in the last second.
Not connected ever.
We talked about the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 error messages, which left a mark on us back in the day. Owners of the GameCube had a quite disturbing message if they tried to load up a Game Boy cartridge, because sometimes it would lead to this. Normally you would expect to hear your favorite Game Boy game music, but in this case you were greeted with this taunting sound.
Unused battle backgrounds.
Mother 3, known as Earthbound outside of Japan, was released in 2006 for the Game Boy Advance. It is the third entry in the Mother series. Mother 3 was originally planned to be released on Nintendo 64 and its 64DD disk drive accessory, but it was cancelled in 2000. And this is the reason why many stuff didn't plan in the final game for the Game Boy Advance. But one of the things that does stand out, besides many enemies, is a boss battle, where Lucas appears naked for some reason. Some speculate they would probably use this as some kind of overlay or template, perhaps. But there is simply no way they would include him just naked in the game. It doesn't make any sense. There is a whole video compilation of this on YouTube if you're more interested into Mother 3.
Hidden dashboard sounds.
This was featured in my last video and somehow landed on this chart too. Xbox hidden dashboard sounds are a quite fun hidden feature on the original Xbox. Microsoft explains that those creepy ambient audio clips were from public domain audio from NASA transmissions from the Apollo days that were tweaked for this sound. They wanted to make the console sound like a sci-fi machine by adding an element of otherworldly sound for those who just let the Xbox sit a bit for too long. These clips were also played randomly to add more creepiness to it. And this ends the layer 6 and we are now diving into layer 7.
The cave.
Welcome to the depths, yet again at another Lego game. If you ever wandered around the island, you will stumble upon a cave with a mysterious door in it. After many desperate attempts, you probably gave up to try to get in, and you wondered what is behind the door and what's the purpose of the door. Please take this with a grain of salt, but a Reddit user stated in an interview with the creative director Wes Jenkins, he was asked about the cave door. He replied, "Oh, the cave door was intended to lead into the next Lego Island 2 game, but that never happened. So it was a bit of a tease." After further analysis, I found out that the last days of Wes were very harsh because he was ill and the medical bills piled up. Also, Reddit users helped to get Wes as much support as they could get through a GoFundMe page. Wes sadly passed away in 2017.
Alternate theme.
I don't know why Lion King is such a hard game. It is a 2D platform game from 1994. The game does feature a very creepy music while playing it. The reason behind this is that the game might accidentally load bits of data from another song which messes up the beat and some instruments. The result would be that the voice and the instruments started to overlapping, which really results in a weird music which could definitely scare some people because it really sounds a bit ominous. Here is a sample and let me know what do you think.
Teddy bear box message.
Now, how many of you were grossed out by SpongeBob? I mean, it had some really disturbing stuff if you really think about it, from creepypastas to weird conspiracy theories. We are looking at Nicktoons Attack of the Toy Bots, known as SpongeBob 2 Nakamachi. So, are you really surprised that the developers hit something quite morbid in this game? Well, this is about a teddy bear box message. Since you can never see the back of Mr. Huggle's box in the game, the developers took advantage of this by putting a creepy hidden message behind there, because why not? The three messages are: I'll hug you and I kill you, you'll never sleep again, and the last one, I'll kill your parents. Despite this can't be accessed by normal means because it's a Easter egg and you need to fiddle around with the camera to get to this, it definitely was a bad joke from the developers to put something like this in a game, which is only a SpongeBob game.
A6 Chord Hidden Message.
Now there are many games where you really expect to be scared out, but jam sessions for Nintendo DS? Come on. But check this out, if you decide to let the A6 guitar chord ring out, don't play anything else over it and be a little patient, you will hear a whisper saying forgive us. I mean, just why? One of the game developers claims that this was actually just a phrase, Tasugi Ikamasu, which means next. Just imagine playing the game in the dark and hearing this and thinking to yourself, what the heck was just that? But before we start the next layer, I just wanted to thank you for tuning in, and if you find this video interesting, remember to smash that like button and consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this. And if you want to enjoy extra perks to get the videos early, you can consider joining my membership program or joining my Patreon if you're able. This is of course only optional. And now let's head for the last layer of this iceberg, the abyss.
Unused Bianco Hills pollution map.
The first entry on this layer is about Super Mario Sunshine, which was the first big Mario game for the GameCube. It further evolves on the Mario 64's formula by adding a so-called flood, which is basically a water nozzle, and tasking you with cleaning up pollution with it. The pollution is mapped to levels using a BPM image, and there are multiple unused pollution maps which remained in the final code, including a particularly odd one called Bianco Hills. After further research, you can stumble upon very weird textures and what appears to be a smiley demon. Sadly, the only thing I found out was a note besides the picture which states the second common pollution map brings us this creepy image. I would guess this was just some sketch concept art for the game, but because we didn't see a proper release of this monster, it is just a dark creature with a wild smile with a few more familiar faces.
Version 1 Ending.
So Drawn to Life, the next chapter, is a 2D platform video game developed by Fifth Cell and published by THQ for the Nintendo DS, released in October 2009. Here we have an event we need to talk about, and that's the first version of the ending of the game. It probably destroyed many childhoods. The second game is a bit darker comparing it to the first one, but the original ending, oh boy. So, are you ready? Apparently Mike is a little boy and Heather is his big sister. The ending reveals that there was a car crash that killed their parents and put Mike in a coma, and the accident left Mike in a coma and Heather's face was torn off to an extent, explaining the dark half of her face. In Mike's state, he envisions a narrative, the Raposa world. Wilfred, aware it's a dream, fears losing this realm when Mike awakens. He drains color, symbolizing Mike's slow demise. Yet the creator intervenes, crafting a hero to restore color and to aid in Mike's recovery. This sequence eventually prompts Mike to emerge from his coma, erasing the Raposa world from existence. It's a surprisingly morbid and haunting conclusion to a child's game. And after seeing the gameplay from this game, I'm really drawn to it and I think I need to try it out.
Blood-covered figure.
Little Big Planet is a game that lives on the creativity of the users, but the game had something weird in a placeholder image in the files. This thing is called Bloody Man Cutout. The sad thing is, I would tell you much more about this than just saying it's an unused asset, but I couldn't find anything more to share with you. So if there are any fans of the game watching this, maybe you know a bit more about this and can help me out. By the way, I need to state that this is maybe fake because some claim they searched the game files and didn't find anything. But let's move to the next entry, which is also a Little Big Planet entry.
This test.
This one is like the previous one, something hidden in the game files. But unlike the previous entry where the files are somewhat undone, this is a real level, but it's an unused one, which is located in the data ROM track. Now, you're probably thinking, how scary can this be? Well, some genius thought after winning a race it would be really nice to see a cow head with human teeth and bleeding eyes. But thanks to God this didn't land in the final game, and I guess the developers thought this was not the best way to celebrate a victory.
Blood textures.
Oh boy, Rayman has a quite interesting legacy, especially the Rabbit Gang. If you're not familiar with the rabbits from Rayman, I'm so happy for you. Rabbids Coding is first of all a kid-friendly, free, but also a fun game that will help you to dive into a programming world. You will solve various puzzles using prompt commands on many different levels, but the game does have something hidden which is quite unusual. In the game you will discover blood textures, from blood dripping, bloody handprints and some warning signs. The speculation is that the files are leftovers from another game, but I somehow doubt that. I guess someone wanted to have some group of death animations in the game, but jokes aside, the Rabbit games are quite fun. I'm actually playing Mario plus Rabbids. It's a kid-friendly version of XCOM and it's quite good. But let's jump to the final entry of this day.
Defcon 4.
Jumpstarter Baby has many sequels, and it's a game series whose goal is to help children learn colors, how to do basic math, and so on. If you take a look at the 1998 classic version of the game, which also focuses on learning concepts from ages from 9 to 24 months. Yes, you heard me right, from 9 to 24 months. After you start to search up the files of the game, you can find something quite confusing. At first glance, it is just odd. It will look like a menu that states Defcon 4, the Alisa files. Well, who is Alisa is a quite good question, but something that I can answer is what is Defcon 4? You see, it refers to a real-life alert system used by the US military, rated on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the lowest alert level and 1 basically meaning a nuclear war is forthcoming. Why is this in a kid's game? Does the teddy bear know something we don't know? Perhaps, and only God knows what are the Alisa files. Too many questions I can't answer, but what I can tell you is thank you for watching and sticking to the very end of this video. Again, if you have some charts you wanna see covered, comment down below, and I also wanna hear about your favorite entries or some entries that didn't land in this video. Again, if you enjoyed this video and learned something new, give the video a like, consider subscribing to the channel to see more videos like this, and if you want to support me, there are things like YouTube membership program or Patreon. This is all from me now, and I hope I will see you in the next video. Bye.